A quick announcement before I get started with this review. I want to remind y'all, when the page gets to 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna drop the free cage plans to the production cages. So if you got this Model 4 bender, it's gonna be everything you need to know, from the bend process to the cutting to where to put the tube in at. And you can be putting down production cages and making a little money on the side. So if you're interested in that, please hit the subscribe button, and here we go. Today I'm gonna shoot a little bender review for y'all. I use a Jd2 Model 4 bender. We got the 1 3/4 die in here. Using the 5.5 center line radius. This is the first bender I ever owned. I've had it for about a year now. If you haven't seen the channel, I make a lot of razor cages. I even built some tractor cages with this thing. As you can tell from the die I got in there, I bend a lot of 1 3/4 tube. Pretty much all the razor stuff is that. I usually bend 0.95 wall thickness DOM tubing, and it does a pretty good job. Before I get into what I don't like about the bender, I'll tell y'all a little bit about what I do like and the price and stuff like that. The price on this setup is about 2,700 bucks. That's with a die and the electric hydraulic setup. I didn't want to go with the air setup. I hate to hear a compressor running all the time. But it didn't come with a stand, so I built a stand, had some scrap metal laying around. I like to have it where I can move it around. Pretty easy. I never know where I want to put it in the shop. And plus it helps when you got bigger tubing or a longer stick you want to bend. When you're stationary, you can't really move it around or have much options on that. It's an easy to use bender overall. It definitely takes some time to get used to, because where all these pins go in have to get wore. And the slots this thing slides into, they gotta wear a little bit. It's got this little brass block on here that has to wear. It's really tight at first, and I really didn't like the bender when I first got it, but I've grown to like it. It's been good to me so far. It's built with some pretty good quality, and it's got a good thickness in the base right here. Pretty rigid for what it is. I've never seen it really flex or anything like that. But I'll also stay around that 0.95 wall. I bent some 11 gauge tubing in it, so I think that was like a 125 wall, something like that, and didn't have any trouble with it. As far as the bender, my biggest con on it is just how long it takes to get it. And that's not really the bender's fault, but I think I waited just like almost 3 months to get this bender. That's probably my biggest complaint with the Jd2 stuff. It just takes a long time on lead time. And that was pre-COVID, so there's no telling what it is now, what the weight's like. Maybe it got better, I'm not sure. Another con I got on this thing is I wish they would have just powder coated some of the stuff, because it rusts. Like everywhere you touch is rusting. But I wish they would at least done the numbers that way. I mean, I get this thing's got to slide across this, but they would have powdered the numbers. At least it would have scraped off the top, and you still could have seen that better. The top of the pins, I wish they would powder coat this, because like I said, everywhere you touch is rusting. I got a guy to powder this, because that's another main point of contact with it. Another complaint I got with it is this pin right here. You have to be very careful when you're unloading tube and loading it back up that you get this pin all the way through the bottom. Because I've had it like this. It gets out of the bottom. If you're not paying attention, you got the tube in there, it'll bend this. I've only bit one, thankfully. I learned my lesson. But they're not cheap to replace if you do bend that. So I just keep an eye on this, like every time, just hit it a few times, make sure it's in there good before you start bending. It's not really a con, but another thing you have to watch out for if you have this set up. This hydraulic will move the following block pretty fast. So once it gets to about 55, this cylinder is stroked out. So if you're not paying attention, just hold this down. You can lock this cylinder up. And I've done that once too. Shot hydraulic fluid everywhere. But that was my fault. So just a heads up, if you're planning on doing this setup, keep an eye on this at all times. Be aware of where it strokes out at. And you won't have any issues with that as long as you're paying attention. Do I think the bender's worth the money? Definitely. It's definitely worth the money. If you plan on building cages or whatever kind of tube fab you're in, I'd recommend it. It's definitely paid for itself for me. And after you get used to it, it's not bad at all. Just gotta break it in and have some patience with it. I got some bend examples right here, so you can check this out. There's a 90. I mean, pretty good bend. You don't see any hard spots or crinkles or anything like that. Doesn't look like it's flattening the tube. Got the 50. And a 20. It definitely does a good job with the bends. I think Jd2's pretty on it with that. So now all that's left to do is show y'all how this thing bends. I got some pillar bars for a razor cage I need to do. So I'll go ahead and show y'all now. Another quick thing I want to show y'all. Some of them have a gauge where you can adjust, but this gauge is, you can see, hard mounted there. So most of the time with this tubing, it doesn't get tight till 10 degrees. So you're going to have to do a little bit of math and add that on top of your bend to get what you want. And then also you'll have to add on your spring back plus this 10 right here, and then what you want to get. As you can see, we stroked out the hydraulic, so we had to adjust where it's pushing from. So we go to this next slot, got this lever right here that keeps it from springing back. So now we can start bending it again to get where we want to be at. So there you have it. That's how the Model 4 bender works. Like I said, if you're interested in finding out all these dimensions, so you can build your own razor cages and not scrap a bunch of tube. Just hit that subscribe button. Help the page get to 1,000 subscribers. If you got any questions about the Model 4 or anything else, or any more videos you want me to make about it or tube bending related, let me know in the comments. Appreciate y'all watching.